Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second way positive psychology is the dark side of life day. We have with us Professor Paul Wong, who is probably one of the leading existential and positive psychologists in the world.
No, probably.
No, probably, for sure. The other probably he's the leading positive psychologist and existential psychologist in the world. Now that we're accurate. Paul wrote a very large number of books and papers. He has been cited so many times. It's just interesting, before I came down here, I checked online to see how many citations Paul has, and I think it's mind-blowing. Paul has 7,300 citations in books and papers, which is just incredible. I don't think there's a single paper today that has been published in relation to at least meaning in life, or spirituality and positive psychology, that doesn't quote Wong in some way in one of his papers or books. Paul is a professor at Trent University. He's also the president of the International Network on Personal Meaning. And on a personal level, I feel that I've always been deeply inspired by Paul's work. For me, Paul always represented a different kind of positive psychology. The kind of positive psychology that is seeking to move deeper, move beyond the obvious, and seeking to expand the boundaries of the field. And perhaps the best example for that is his paper from 2011, Positive Psychology 2, which for me completely transformed the way I think about positive psychology. So we're honored to have him with us today, Professor Paul Wong.
Thank you. I feel that I am among friends. I have a long history with positive psychology. During the early days, it was pretty dark. Let me tell you a couple of stories about positive psychology in those early days. And there's one person asked about how to increase the flow in the bedroom. Do you know what I mean? The flow in the bedroom. So I say, well, according to my clinical experience, the first thing you got to do is to reduce your performance anxiety. and then lose yourself in the loving embrace of your loved one. Get what I get in return from those positive psychologists. Oh no, you cannot mention anxiety. Anxiety is not part of positive psychology. And then I applied for a grant from Templeton on the joy of suffering. And one reviewer said, oh, suffering is not part of positive psychology. And then, in another case, I talk about, I say, to be a coach or to be a counselor. Any coach will tell you, the best coach to train you to be a complete player, you need to develop your strength and also improve your weakness, right? To be a complete player, right? I was told, oh, no. Weakness is not part of our vocabulary. You should talk about lesser strengths. My foot is lesser strengths. It's so frustrating dealing with those I don't know how to call them. Those, that's what I'm dealing with. The only guy who I ever sang is Chris Peterson. You know Chris Peterson. He always came to my defense. Said, Paul's right. And all my critics, gradually calm down, okay? And every other year I ran a conference, a mini conference, So I make a point to invite the best existential psychologists. I've invited Amy, I have invited Spinelli, and the best parapsychologists. So almost all the leaders in parapsychology have come to my conference, except Marty, okay? But anyway, so it's interesting to know that Marty's students, some of my best fans are Marty's students. They always say, hey, Paul, your writing changed my life. Oh, we love your writing, okay? His own student. You know, some of my best fans are his students. Oh, I said several love letters from them, okay? But they told me that, don't worry, Marty is moving you to your way now, slowly. So in a way, parapsychology has gone a long way. The fact that I got invited to this lovely group, you know, is indication that things are changing for the better. Okay? So today I'll just talk about these three things. I was told to talk about these three things. Okay? So Anita told me that. So I follow order. This is what I would do. Okay? Evolution, but I'll give you a quick summary. Okay? This is not the right code. Yeah, here's the right code. Yeah. This is Silverman saying now, okay? A complete science and complete practice of psychology should include an understanding of suffering and happiness, an interaction, and validated intervention that both relieve suffering and increase happiness. So he knows, see? He's not stupid, right? He knows that a complete science requires both suffering and happiness. But two separate endeavors. That's why he lost his way. Two separate endeavors. How can you separate them, suffering and happiness, as two separate domains? It's not possible, right? So he implicitly recognized that parapsychology is just half the game, okay? And you get smarter, you know better, right? I'm glad you're smarter. Otherwise, you won't have invited me. That's just character strength, okay? Now, Peterson, I always like Peterson. He always level-headed, okay? Peterson said about his last book. In fact, I invited him to speak in my conference. A couple of months later, he dropped dead. So I feel bad about that. But he still remained a friend, okay? And in his last book, he talked about, well, parapsychology is really about four areas. He forget about negative, positive, this and that. No, he said, well, let's be sensible. Okay? Parapsychology is about meaningful work, about love, about play, about serving humanity. It makes sense, right? Peterson makes better sense. Too bad he's no longer with us. Okay? So there's no mention about happiness and character strengths. You know, parapsychology is about these four things that make life meaningful, make life, this is a good life. Like Freud say, free to love and work and play. Yeah. Now this is American parapsychology concerned with happiness, subjective being, human strength. Now here's something. Emphasize peace and prosperity as an ideal condition for PP. So I challenged them. I said, what do you mean? That parapsychology is only for people living in peace and prosperity? I said, people living in poor areas, in war-torn areas, they need more. No wonder my friend James Coy saying that parapsychology is for rich white people. Do you know him? Only for rich white people. You don't care about people who are struggling, suffering. In China, the golden age of philosophy of wisdom are developed during warring state, where people are fighting, And those times that Lao Tzu, Confucianism, sprung up because they try to grapple with the problem of humanity. Parapsychology is not just for people living in peace and prosperity. So that is, it's really naive, okay? By the way, I use the word naive, and you got real mad with me, okay? I say, well, parapsychology is naive because they close their eyes, to those people suffering and to the reality of life. Only, life is good. Let's be happy. So now we are talking about mature parapsychology. It's progress, right? And the naive way is very effective in the beginning, okay? Because most people want to have a happy life. Everybody, the human nature. But trying to promote happiness at the expense of the reality of life, you're just deceiving yourself. Okay? The last point is model after mechanistic thinking. So that's another problem there, right? The interesting mechanism, the model after the physical sciences. But for us, philosophy play a big role. Literature play a big role. UEL has a great existentialist because he reads great books in literature. Now, American parapsychology has difficulty integrating negative and the positive. It is ethnocentric. Now, this is the part that many people criticize. Do you know what that means? They think America is the center of the universe. What is good for America is good for everybody else. How arrogant can that be? Right? America is not the center of the universe, not by a long shot. So all the instruments, the ideas, are based on samples from American universities. So they graduate a whole bunch of MAP students from other countries that come to Pennsylvania to study, and they go home to try to become ambassador for Silverman and colonize other countries with his idea about parapsychology. But parapsychology had to be indigenous, developed right in the country, in the own culture. Yeah. So it's not, you cannot just transport the tyranny of parapsychology. Right? We talked about it earlier. Okay? I even can't talk about weakness, lesser strength. I can talk about anxiety. I can't talk about suffering. They're a part of life, right? So it's does not recognize the whole spectrum of human experience. Does not fully recognize the positive potential of negative experience and the negative potential of positive experience. The yin-yang experience. So if you try to separate negative and positive, it's impossibility. The duality is the human nature, is duality, human experience. Doesn't make. There's a Chinese saying, 乐极生悲. That means when they're too happy, the happiness turns to crying. 乐极生悲, huh? Because there's emotion, what is emotion, so it's always together. You just can't separate the two. It's artificial. Oh, I can write a whole book just criticizing does not recognize the important context. Here's the word there, context. It's not just cultural context, but actual context. In some contexts, lying is wrong. But in some contexts, if lying saves lives, that's good, right? So, right? During Nazi time, there were many people hiding with Jewish people. They're lying, right? That's good. Life, the value of life is much more important than lying, right? So the contextual part is seldom taken seriously in parapsychology. So this just on a context is a fertile ground for research. Provide an arbitrary normative standard of what is right, what's good. Now this is the interesting part. They claim saying that, we are descriptive, not normative, not prescriptive. But they are prescriptive. They're prescribing like the Peterson and Silverman's virtues and characters, strengths. They are offer a prescription, a template, of what mental health looks like, right? And in a very arbitrary way, there's a certain character strength define a virtue. It's quite arbitrary, I'm telling you, because from German culture, like in my culture, virtue doesn't mean doing that, right? So they are saying that you have to do this in order to have, virtuous person. The problem is that when I say people need to be happy, people need to have character strength, you basically impose your own agenda on other people. Now, if I go to work, they say, you should be happy here, we're a happy place. Then I got punished. Do you know in Disney World, have you been there? In Disney World, everybody there has to smile. That's very hard on employees. Sometimes I don't feel like smiling. I just lost my mother. Why should I smile? It's hard. It causes extra stress. To tell everybody to be happy. I don't feel like happy today. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my mother. So the idea that everybody should be happy, so it becomes a burden to some people. Imposing part of that. Now, elevating happiness as an ideal above all cultural values, such meaning is social justice. Now, this is another issue. This is an issue has political implications. In your mind, what would be an ideal society? Tell me. Anybody want to speak up? Tim, what's your ideal society for you?
Universal housing.
Huh?
Housing for everybody.
How about you?
I think that it's a fair society.
Okay.
Inclusive society.
What?
Inclusive.
Inclusive.
Of everybody.
Good, thank you. So I'm with the right crowd. Because see, American psychology, their dream is to create a happier society. Everybody singing in the rain. Everybody's so happy. A happier society. I don't think that's a good vision. A good vision will create a more just society, a more fair society, a society with more opportunity for suffering people, a kinder society. And that is better for humanity, for everybody. If I only say, I want to create a happy society by making myself happy, I can predict there'd be more unhappy people there. So that vision is questionable. And too eager to market happiness at the expense of science. Map student, take note. I know lots of map students from Cinnamon. They call themselves experts, authority on the science of happiness. But all they took is one course in research design. Just one course. I studied all my life. They think they're more expert than I am because they studied one course with multi-element. The arrogance is scary. What happened? Because they don't know science, they're often guilty of overgeneralization, right? And generalizing beyond the data, and also misinterpreting the finding, misapplication. And so far, several people in parapsychology are trying to debunk the myth of parapsychology. The myths are created by themselves. They debunk themselves. If you're more honest, say, oh my God, I made a mistake, I should be naive. Then, oh, this is a myth. The myths are created by you guys, okay? So my friend James Coe called that pseudoscience. You know your limitation. You can say, well, science provides some findings, clarifies things, can provide some helpful things. But science is not a god, okay? Either 1 year doesn't make you a scientist. So be careful, don't follow the trap of these American maps, okay? I think American maps here, I hope that they're not all like that, okay? Yeah, you're not that, right? You're humble, right? You're very humble, I can tell. But some map students are real arrogant, So don't. You can promote happiness, but do not at the expense of science. Okay. Another thing is that they make the claim that because they are scientific, like the physics and chemists, they are value neutral. So they say, well, Hitler can live a meaningful life. Hitler can live a good life. So the moral issue is kind of, they rather forget the moral issue. They are not neutral. They are saying that happiness is the most important value. They are not value neutral. They have their value. Their value is individual happiness is number one. Okay. The second point, they take a binary approach, negative and positive. Now, the parapsychology people are very mad with people who criticize them, call them the negative psychology people. So there's a war going on between negative psychology and parapsychology. We rise above that, right? We welcome both negative and positive. So I'm really happy that you guys writing books and papers say you transcend negative and positive. There's no need. They're all part of life. It's silly, fighting against each other. Here, elect both depth and breadth in research and extension. Now, I was just talking to some guy there. Who is the guy talking about existential joy? Who is the guy there? We talk about existential joy, okay? The existential joy is something that the American parapsychology doesn't know what it is. Existential joy is like an ocean. Like ocean, you have to know how to go through the gate of existentialism. You look at the world with an existential lens. to see the depth, the richness of life, not skip the surface. Don't just swim in the shallow end of the pool. There's a vast ocean of treasure, but you have to dive, right? Yeah, that requires hard work. That requires risk. To dive in the ocean is require risk. That's how you discover deep joy, right? Let a comprehensive philosophy of life and methodology to understand the complex and paradoxical nature of human experience. Here is something very important, right? I always say, my definition of psychology is the art and science of the study of happiness, whatever it is. The art is an important part of it. Because if you only use the scientist approach, you're limited to your why. Because the young scientists often do not have the profound knowledge and insight of the wise old professors, philosophers, literature. What come out from the psychology lab are conducted by young people, naive young people, no life experience. So if their finding is the absolute standard, then I feel sorry for you, because often the finding proven to be wrong. When many papers become withdrawn from journals, because it cannot be replicated. So where do we stand? Yeah, science is important, but that's not the whole story. Most of my ideas existed hundreds of years ago. Meditation has been ancient art for hundreds of years, right? Now science latch on that. Oh, the discovery of mindful meditation is helpful. People in the East know that a long time ago. So Tai Chi. So there's a lot of wisdom in philosophy, in literature, that really can help us to find our way. Science is useful to test out, to bring order, to test out what assumptions are right, what assumptions are wrong. But that's not the whole story, okay? If you learn to practice parapsychology, make sure you read some good philosophy books. Okay? Confucius books, Taoism, and Aristotle. Read some good philosophy books, make you much wiser. Okay? Support a conservative political agenda. See, conservatives getting power again with the help of parapsychology. Big business and big government go to bed together to make you happy. Who cares about unemployed, other suffering? You know why you're unemployed? Because you did not use your character strength. It's your problem, it's not government problem. You see? Even a job, have entrepreneurial spirit and create your own work. Don't depend on government to take your healthcare problem. Well, you're not eating well. You're not have a healthy lifestyle. See, all the problem back to the individual. That's a conservative agenda. Am I right? How about social justice? How about lack of opportunities? How about poverty? How about injustice? How about discrimination? Those are big issues. Experiencing power of happiness is stretched beyond limit. You're happy, you're more productive. You're happy, you're healthier. You're happy, you're stronger. You're happy. Happiness can experience everything. If happiness can experience everything, then it experience nothing. Right? If a theory can experience everything, that theory can experience nothing. So we have to be careful, in don't go beyond a limit. Huh? So now we say we need a new paradigm. Okay. And the books come from your department, and the paper show that there's so many findings that support the assumptions of the original parapsychology. You know why? Because the very foundation of parapsychology is shaky. The very foundation of parapsychology for cracks, because the only evidence is positive. So that whole problem, right? So that's why the need for new paradigm. And here's something. Okay? Seligman said in his book on authentic happiness that 50 years of negative psychology hasn't solved the problem of mental health problems. Okay? Fair enough. 50 years of research on pathology, they still have so many people depressed, so many people suicide. They say, therefore, we need to switch to parapsychology, from pathology to strength-based parapsychology. But by the look of it, parapsychology is not going to solve the problem either. With all the emphasis on happiness and strength, there are still so many people commit suicide. There's so many people depressed. The only gain of parapsychology is that the rich people are happier. The rich people hire coaches. Teach me how to be happy forever. Oh, happy forever, okay, happy forever. So the rich people are happier. But generally, the problem is still there. Logically, if pathology focus doesn't work, if the strength happiness focus doesn't work, what's the only solution now? Combine the two. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The last paradigm is on the left. Right? That's the only logical route to follow. To solve many of our problems, to make life better for all, you have to work together. Not two separate endeavors, as Seligman said, two separate disciplines, integrated discipline. But it's still called parapsychology. You know why? Because we believe that the positive side will prevail. That's what progress is, right? We know there are problems, but we know that we can overcome. It's still positive, right? But not blind positive. Positive with eyes wide open to problems of humanity. So Hegelian dialectic model. There's always also the yin-yang model, right? The Hegel's dialectic model means negative psychology and parapsychology integrated. Yin-yang model means within positive, they're negative. Within negative, they're positive. So if you adopt these two dialectical approaches, you have a better handle to solve problems. Okay. What does PP2 look like? The dialectical, more holistic, more person-centered, more contextual, more cross-cultural, more content rather than process-oriented. What's the content, right? The definition of PP2, the art and science of studying what makes life worth living and what helps people become more fully functioning in spite of the dark side of the human condition. Okay. When I talk about science, I talk about not just laboratory science, but the science of the human laboratory society. When Franco is in a Nazi concentration camp, in that situation, his theory of meaning theory is tested. So that is a laboratory. It's bigger than the psychology laboratory. Okay, last part now. Okay. Why is PP2 necessarily existential? Number one, it's grounded in the reality of human existence. That's obvious to you guys, right? We're not living in Disneyland. We're not living in a fantasy world. We're living a human life. We're grounded in a human reality. Second, it's situated in a social cultural context. Right now, in the Middle East, in some part of the world, it's horrible, right? Political unrest, war. In Africa, so there, the past psychology probably take on a different form. Okay? The third is concerned with how to live a worthy life, not just a happy life, but life is worth living. Fourthly, is concerned with the optimal functioning in spite of limitations. So that's why in spite of limitations and the dark side. Okay. You got that? I have a rush. How much time do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes will tell you my agenda, okay, my vision will. Oh, let me sip a tea first. Oh. That's old age. Do you know how old I am? 78. Real old, ancient. But I'm still alive. Thank God I'm still alive. Okay? So, I'm still alive. Yes. Thank God I'm still alive. I'm still hopping and limping along. Okay. This is my analysis of the dark side. First level, the fundamental existential concerns. You notice in my list, the list from Buddha and the list from Yalom, right? East and West. Yalom doesn't know the first part that much, but he lives in America. I'm from China, so I know the first part. The dark side of human existence. 8, right there. Even pure parapsychology, you have to be able to take care of that. The second level, general societal problems. Poverty, inequality, lack of opportunity, oppression. And I forgot to add the word corruption there. Is there corruption there? In some countries, in China, corruption is a lifestyle. Corrupt everywhere. England is not too bad, right? Hopefully. In some countries, corruption is a real problem. You can't get anywhere without bribing somebody. You know, the third, personal problems. Your animal instinct. Maybe you have too much sex energy, or too much anger, too much libido, or too much something. Eh? It's the animal part of you. You're an animal too, you know that? Yeah. Your negative emotion. Negative emotion come and goes. But some people have problem regulating their negative emotion. So Todd's book, Todd and Bishwa book upon the bright side of the dark side, but they only talked about negative emotion, but that's a small part. That's a really, really tiny small part. Look, my dark list, real long list, right? And personal weaknesses, petty jealousy, laziness, disorganized, can all get you into trouble. Okay? And the potential for evil. What's evil? Evil means you intentionally hurt other people for your own gain. You go to work. In many companies, they're full of assholes. Do you know what asshole means? Huh? Bullies, jerks, abusive bosses who exploit you for their own gain. This is the reality of life. So when you in the paper I just wrote about you will do consulting for a company, okay? The first thing I check is not how to make people happy. Who are the assholes? Get rid of them. There's a famous Stanford professor wrote a book called No Asshole Rule. Rule number 1, get rid of the assholes. Then everyone will be happier. One single asshole can spoil the whole company. One rotten apple can spoil the whole barrel. Okay? One asshole can spoil the whole company. Okay? So therefore, 2.0 is like EPA, okay? It's meaning-oriented. It's positive, meaning can be discovered even in the worst situation. It's dialectic. Regard research subject as human beings in contact rather than an object, okay? Only through struggle and suffering can fully develop virtue and strength. Now, this is the tough part. Right now, there's a lot of talk about resilience, about grit. But you cannot develop grit and resilience through exercise. You have to go through the brutal, tough training to see what it takes. You know, you just can't. The sum of the character strength is acquired through overcoming. Now, a few years ago, I read a book about 100 successful artists and scientists. There's one thing in common about them. Guess what? What is? All of them have the experience of having overcome a huge problem, whether lost a father in childhood, or getting sick, real sickness, or family get bankruptcy. I mean, every single one of them is able to achieve greatness in art and science because they have acquired character strength and grit through suffering, through overcoming suffering. Now, in positive psychology, what is the positive psychology definition of grit? Do you remember? Passion plus persistence, right? The simple part. But the passion part is minor. The major part is persistence. But how do we acquire persistence? I've done a lot of research on persistence, 20 years research. You can't acquire persistence without going through overcome a lot of frustration and pain. I was able to train a rat to push the bar for 200 times for one tiny little pallet of food. I trained them, first time press 5, then increase, press 10 times, the progressive ratio, okay? And then 20 times and 30 times. Eventually, some rats are able to work 200 times for one tiny little pellet. Without training, they will never press 200 times. are even trained rats. One good rat, they struggle to get food from Harper, okay? Another good rat, a lot of food on the floor, they can eat to the heart's content. When they grow up, the hungry rats, the persistent rats, they beat those guys in every test. In one-on-one competition, in learning a maze, in any learning task. I presented that finding in APA a long time ago. And it was actually cited by Saybrook in his introductory Saybrook. So those hungry guys will take over the world. The hungry guys, they grow up hungry, but they acquire the capacity for suffering and grit and resilience. It's a meaningful for me, the best way to make life worth living. If you live a meaningful life, different topic now. If you want to really live a good life, the way to go is meaning, because it satisfies three values: virtue, happiness, and meaning itself. Because there are three basic values people want: happiness, virtue, and meaning. The meaning hypothesis takes care of all three. My time is up. Thank you for listening.